I love the concept of an archive. I call myself an archivist in an amateur way. I love to document things. So I thought for this project I wanted to reconstruct my own queer archive by taking 10 really specific moments in time from my journey as a trans man and articulating how all of that plays into my identity and how I've become who I am today. The first part of the archive is my first binder. It was like ripped to pieces, it fell apart. I wore it every single day for a really long time. I remember trying on the binder for the first time. I had it delivered to a friend's house, and so I had to pick it up at school. Put it on. I was in the girls' bathroom, but I put it on and I was like, yo, I really like this, and that might be a problem. So I only wore it for a few days at a time when I first got it because I was like, I'm not a boy. I just like looking like a boy sometimes. And then a few days turned into every single day. But yeah, I think this first binder is a very concrete image and something that people really associate with the transition journey of trans men and like FDMs and trans masculine people. It's not required, of course, but it's just something that I see a lot. Like I'm doing right now. If I were to create a timeline, if I had a museum, if I had a building, a room to just put up all these different things that represented my trans journey, it would probably start with this binder. Next is my very first Pride. The video I'm going to include was taken in my back pocket, I think. I accidentally pressed the button and it started taking a video of when I was under the giant rainbow flag that the parade had. And you would walk under it and hold it up and everyone would just like parade for like, I think it was like a mile or something. It was just a really, for my first Pride especially, that was just a really monumental moment. I think looking around and seeing all these queer people and realizing like there's a community, there's people around who support me and others, like any queer person can say, like that's something that means a lot to them. I just love that it was taken on accident. And then next is this haircut. I had come out as trans to my school essentially in August 2018. I hadn't cut my hair yet, but I had wanted to for years. I had asked my mom, she was like, no, like do not cut your hair, like you're not allowed to. I got shut down for years and years until one day I was like fed up and I was like, you know what? I thought of a plan. My parents were out of the house and I cut my own hair and I cut it short and it didn't look great, but it was short and all I wanted was short hair. And I consider that when people ask me what like started your transition, I actually don't even think about the binder. I don't sometimes forget about the binder. I think of that action of cutting my hair. It felt like beginning something because at that point I had accepted, okay, I am trans. But that was an action, that was part of the process that actually cemented this is something I'm going to do.
Hi, Omar. Did you read my text? I cut my hair.
So this video, I included it because when we mention those archives, Cvetkovich talks about how a lot of the things in these archives are really personal and intimate, but also some of them can be like really traumatic. And I wanted to include mostly positive moments, but this specific moment, I'm like shaking behind the camera. I'm not even sure why I decided to film. This is my parents walking in, seeing my haircut for the first time without knowing that I cut my hair. I'm terrified. When this event occurred, it's one of the most traumatic moments of my life. But I think it still deserves to be in the archive because it's a part of, who I am. I think it's important because of those things. I thought that haircut was something important and I believed it in my heart, and it was. It was worth doing, and it's one of the best choices I've ever made in my life to this day. Next, this is me painting Noah's Ark in my church youth group room. We were given the task of painting murals around the walls because we were redecorating the room. And I considered myself a pretty good artist back in the day, so I did used to paint a lot. And I was like, oh, I really want to paint like a big mural. I took it upon myself. I was like, you know what? No one at church knew I went by Noah. It also didn't come out as queer, but it was kind of obvious, like if you looked at me. Anyways, I was like, I'm gonna paint a big ass rainbow. I need an excuse to paint a big ass rainbow on this wall. And then I was like, why don't I just do Noah's Ark? Like, that's the story. This is also me trying to fix my sister and another friend who ended up being queer tried to help paint the rainbow and they kind of fucked it up. But they still, the intention was there. They were doing their best. So this is me like fixing the red stripe that they messed up. But if anyone goes up there, they just see a big ass rainbow and Noah's Ark and they're like, yo, like some of them might associate it with queer stuff and that's really cool. Next is This is an image from the leaflet that they give you for the testosterone injections. This is when I started my medical transition in 2022. And I just put it in my journal because I love to journal and scrapbook. I wanted to keep it because it reminded me this is something I'd worked really hard for and something that I'd wanted for a long time. So it was worth, keeping just so I could look at it and remember, like, I finally started tea. Like, that was something I finally had gone to do, and that was really important. Next is kind of similar. It's just like the voice update video from like testosterone. So this isn't just like the day that I started. This is also the following months. This is another example of those individual archives I was talking about. And that's something that's like blown up as a trend on the internet.
Hi, my name is Noah, and this is my voice one day.
2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 1 year on tea. Yeah, it's just another thing that is really essential to this archive. It is a visual and verbal documentation of exactly what it looked like to transition medically at that moment in time. So it just made sense to put it in here. Next, there was like a casting call put out to participate in this documentary about like the intergenerational relationships between Black, queer, and trans people across, like different ages. And I participated in it. I think it was about 6 to 8 weeks. And it was incredible. I met so many really cool people. I don't have the contact info for a lot of these people, but still the time I had with them was really great, and we had great conversations, and it really gave me hope to see that like there is a future for me as a Black, queer, trans person. Like, there's a life out there. I can live it. I didn't have many of those elders like growing up at all. So seeing them in person and interacting with them and getting to know their stories was pretty cool. Also, ironically, I think I'm wearing the same shirt that I was wearing during filming of a certain segment in there. I told everyone except my parents, to be honest. They aren't very understanding of transgender people in general, or what it means to be queer. I have never actually told them I am trans. I'm a boy. I go by Noah. They still do not know my name to this day. And they don't know that I've started transitioning. I don't think, I know for a fact that they won't take it very well. But now that they've seen that I'm kind of older and I'm like navigating the world by myself, I know that they'll kind of understand like this is my thing to do. So this documentary was a chance for me to kind of just present as me and tell my story without it being too focused and centralized on just my transition. Participating in Project Griot was a super impactful, just positive experience, and I think I'll remember it for the rest of my life. This is now, like, what, 2 years later? I have not come out to my parents yet. I know that sounds crazy to some people. Like, what do you mean you've gone home and you have a beard and you haven't told your parents you're trans yet? By the time I decided to do it, it felt necessary. So I wrote my parents this letter. One version in French and Swahili and one version in English. Like, I hand wrote it and I gave it to my mom. And yeah, like, she didn't receive it well. Shocker, coming out is something, I don't think it has to be a part of everyone's journey. When I look at this coming out letter and I look at this video I took, this was me filming myself before I flew back home to give it to them, and just like talking about my fears and anxieties and things like that. I didn't realize how much I'd been kind of holding on my shoulders until I filmed this video and until I finished writing that letter and gave it to my parents. Anyways, I do go to this Black and trans support group here in LA, and they asked us which topics like we want to talk about, and I asked to talk about coming out. And so last week, when we met, they gave us like sample coming out letters. So I wrote it on actual paper, which is like rare these days, right? Just anybody who's ever had to come out as queer, like, it's people make it a really big thing. Sometimes it is a big thing and that's okay. But a lot of the time people make it way bigger than it has to be. So I love that I wrote this letter and I put my heart into it, but at the same time I let myself like detach from it, so I wasn't too invested in like what my parents thought of me after I came out to them. Now we're nearing the end. We're at number 9. This is a copy from this year, August this year, of my cardiac rhythm strips from top surgery. So this is when they're like tracking my heart, they're monitoring my heart because like I need to, be alive for them to do my surgery. I got top surgery August 2025 and it changed my life for the better. I saw these rhythm strips, they had them like scanned into one of the documents they gave me after surgery from like the surgical report. And I saw them and I was like, this is so, like, I don't know why, There's something so poetic about this. Like, that's my heart during a memory that'll stick with me forever. Finally, this is a picture of me at the Stonewall National Monument. I went to this queer conference in October of this year. There was time to explore the city, so I was able to go out with some friends, and we went to some gay bars, and we went to the Stonewall Monument. This is a picture of me holding a brick. It's literally a brick from the ground. It was a little bit of a joke. I'm also wearing wolf ears because it was around Halloween, so we had to like be in costume. Anyways, and even though it means so much, the history of Stonewall and all that comes with it, and the history of queer people in the United States and their fight for recognition, I'm at a point now where I get to do things as myself, as a trans person, but as myself, and that's all I could ever ask for, really.